Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Record Drums Online podcast. So today I had the chance of interviewing UK session drummer Samson Jatto. So Samson is an amazing guy, amazing drummer, and I've found him online. I found him on Instagram about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and watched his progress. And is it insane how quickly he's becoming one of the most in-demand UK session drummers. And in this episode, we talk about remote recording in a small room. He records apparently in his garage, and manages to get great sounds. If you go on Instagram and check out his videos, you definitely know what I'm talking about. We talk about pocket and time fill, getting ready for sessions, tuning. There is a lot in here, so definitely check out this episode. And as always, make sure also to subscribe and like, tell your friends and everyone about this podcast so we can get more people in. All right, thank you very much. There we go. Nice one. Perfect. Samson, hey man, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, how are you? How's things?
Yeah, I'm good. Not too bad. Just ticking away. I spent last couple of weeks. I've been home more recently, so I've just been back in the studio pretty much.
Nice.
It's been quite a busy year, but things sort of calmed down now. So a few
Right.
things here and there, but mainly at home.
Nice. Have you been touring much? Have you been on tour?
Yeah, so 2019, pretty much most of 2019, 2025, I've spent most of it on tour with James Bay.
Yeah.
So we at the start of the year we had a UK Europe tour, and then we had a small break, and then we had the US tour. That was a 6-week run, so that was quite long. And then we came back, and we had the summer festivals basically. That ran up until September, and then right at the end of September, I started The Voice again. So I played drums on The Voice.
Nice.
So we started recording that, and that finished at like the end of October.
That's awesome, man. Wow. Okay. So busy times, man. Busy times. That's great.
Yeah. It's been busy, but it's all sort of quieting down now, which is cool. So I get some time off. But yeah, no, it's been good.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, it's been busy for a while, to be honest. The last few years, it's just been since mid 2021. It's been sort of all crammed in.
Yeah. That's great. I keep seeing your videos. Your videos on Instagram, they keep popping up, and I'm like, wow, it's the sounds. Yeah, I'm saying this because mainly this podcast we try to focus on drum recordings and trying to dive in as much as we can, and just I ask session drummers like yourself or sound engineers and producers how they record drums and all that, and so normally I start by asking how did you got involved into music? Where was your journey up to now, where you're a session drummer, and so how did you start, and how did you develop in your journey?
So I started playing drums when I was 13 in secondary school. I remember I had a music teacher, and one day one of my friends was having drum lessons at the school, and I wasn't in drum lessons, but I came to wait for him like outside his drum lesson, and the teacher who was teaching him was my music teacher as well. Just said, why don't you come and try and learn? And to be honest, I can't remember a time before then when I didn't think about drums. I think I secretly always wanted to play the drums, but I was too sort of shy. We had like at home in my house, we had like keyboards and stuff like that. So I always played a bit of keys. So in school, at the time I was good at keys. I'm not very good at all now, but so like the teacher recognized me as one of the more sort of talented musicians at the time, but I was just playing keys. And then he asked me to come and play the drums. And to be honest, that's all I ever wanted to do. But it's the kind of thing where you maybe feel like you're sort of under pressure because it's such a loud sort of instrument. I never really put myself there. And also, I didn't know how to play. I probably hit pots and pans at home before. And he asked me if I'd like to learn, and he taught me, and kind of instantly things started to. I felt like it was quite natural for me. I didn't find it like hard to do at the time. And
Nice.
then, quickly then he became like my favorite teacher. Music became my favorite subject. And I was just playing drums as much as possible in school. And then same in college. And yeah, I wasn't really at that time in college or anything trying to become a professional musician. At university, I didn't even study music. I studied finance at university, but I had friends who studied music. So they would always let me into the music room, and that's
Yeah.
how I would play and practice. And then I think I started meeting other musicians at like jam sessions and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I remember someone who I met at the time, his name's Anthony Lewis. And I remember meeting him at the Troy Bar, and he was, the main drummer there, and just absolutely killing. I think maybe he was like 17 at the time or 16, and I was 17. I think I'm a year older. And I asked him like, what he did outside of music. How does he make money? And he's like, "Oh no, this is what I do. This is what I do." And I was just like, I didn't realize that was an option or a thing. So like from then on, I was like inspired to, practice as much as possible. But even still, wasn't really necessarily trying to become a musician because I was like in the middle of a degree. But towards the end of my degree, I kind of knew, okay, when I finish this, I'm pretty sure I don't want to. I had like 1 year working in an office, and I knew this isn't going to be for me. So I was just like, okay, when I
Right.
finish my degree, I'll, try and put all my eggs in this basket. But also, you kind of need a bit of luck. So I started
Yeah.
working with an artist at the time. And shortly after that artist got signed, and then he started touring.
Right.
And then from then, things kind of just picked up.
Just
That was
picked up.
2011, I think, or 2010 when I met this guy, a guy called Maverick Saber, who I toured with for about 5 years.
Oh wow.
But when I started touring with him, he was unsigned. I met his manager, and then from there, quickly he was on the circuit doing festivals and tours. And at that time, I'd never even been to a festival. So my first festival I went to, I was playing at, um, yeah. And then after that, it's word
Yeah.
of
It
mouth,
picked
and
up. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
gig leads to another
That
gig and
that's so
stuff like
interesting.
that.
How did you go about going from such a safe job in a way, like in an office,
Mm,
and just going all in? Because as you know, I mean, probably at the time you were like, yeah, I want to do music, but when
mm.
you then when you're in it, you kind of realize that it's not as, let's call it, quote unquote, safe
Yeah,
as
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. To be honest, at the time I was still, still relatively young, so I wasn't even thinking too much about safety. And like I said, I wasn't always trying to become a professional musician initially. I think when
mm,
it all happened so fast. I just found myself on a
let's
gig,
go.
and I was like, "Oh, like shit, I'm on a gig." It's just like,
It's great.
um, I think the first thing he did was a tour supporting Snoop Dogg, and I just remember at the
Oh
time thinking,
wow.
this is just wild. Before
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
playing in like pubs and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm on this tour. I think that maybe the second gig, or it might have been. I think before we did that tour, he had a Jules Holland, so that's like a TV show, um, and that was just like I remember that experience being just like, well, this is just weird. I'm just playing on TV.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so to be honest, there were probably more times as I got older when I started to think more about safety and think, oh,
Yeah.
this is quite tough doing this because
Mm.
you're not always on a gig.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah, yeah.
at that time with Maverick Saber, I think we had probably a good 2 years, like all of 2011, all of 2012,
Yeah.
maybe some 2013 was like super busy, and then his album was finished, so he was in between cycles. I started working with Jesse Ware in 2011, end of 2011 as well. And again, once all of that kind of stuff dried up after their first albums, I found myself like, okay, waiting for the next thing. And then I
Mm.
started working with another artist,
Yeah.
and then you kind of get that yo-yo kind of up
Yeah.
and down feeling, and like where you feel super high when you're on the tour,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
between, you're just like, okay, I don't know when the next thing is coming. And I think, yeah, just I guess as you sort of progress, a lot of these gigs can end up starting to sort of you find yourself doing other things in between,
Yeah, right.
or your diary starts filling up. There are other types of gigs you can do as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all just a
How,
journey, just
and then and
experiences.
then and then because you play with lots of artists, right? So how did you go from let's say playing with someone and then maybe you get a call for an artist you want to do? I don't know. Did it ever happen to you that you're on tour with someone and then all of a sudden you get a call and you're like, oh man, I really want to play with this guy, but at the
Yeah, I
moment I'm on
mean,
tour.
oh yeah. I mean, stuff like that has happened. But if I'm in the middle of a tour, I'm in the middle of a tour. But obviously, if you're I guess when you're in between actual tours, so let's say you're in the middle of a campaign, maybe that's a bit different. So you might have done some touring and maybe you have a couple of weeks off, and the next tour is coming, or maybe the next tour is in a couple of months' time. And sometimes things come in and you might think, oh, I might need to consider my options. Like, all of that was all part of the learning process in the beginning as well, because there were gigs at the time that I didn't realize, I could just get someone to deck for me, and maybe cover. Because sometimes I try and be sort of quite like honest and loyal to the people I'm working with at the time. So like, if I've got their dates in my diary, I'll pretty much tend to prioritize them no matter what. But obviously, if I'm working with someone and they don't have anything in the diary, and then something else comes from someone else, but then late after I've started or agreed with this new artist, they then give me dates which clash. There's a bit of a different situation there because I didn't have those dates. So that was like a lesson I had to learn. In terms of, oh, actually, I think initially I was giving gigs away. Not that I had so many gigs to choose from, but I just said, oh, maybe you should use this guy instead because I'm not going to be around for these dates. When really I should have actually just set up a deck to just cover me for those dates, and I could come back in. Again, I think that's all like part of the learning process.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah.
You
But
realize one gig that you do doesn't necessarily last forever.
Forever, for sure. So you always have to keep an eye out and just see if what's available, what's around, and opportunities. Yeah, and when it comes to for example, you get a call from let's say James Bay, for example, and you have to learn all these songs. How do you go about learning, jumping from one, like the voice, especially the voice? Probably you have like a lot to learn, like very quickly, right? How do you go about learning? What's your process when it comes to learning new songs and new sets?
Well, it varies. I kind of treat every gig differently. So I think it was around 2015 I started like learning to read drums, and so then from then reading and transcribing became a thing for me, because that was a quick way where if I had a gig where it was maybe a lot of work, a lot of music, but for just one show, for me, it's better to spend my time maybe transcribing these songs, and writing them out, and then using them if I need them for the gig, use them for the gig. Although I find often when I write out music, it's kind of just ingrained in my head. I can visualize it. So I find myself writing charts out for stuff that I don't use charts for.
Yeah.
Because I find that writing that out kind of helps me learn the song. I find it much easier to internalize the rhythm and the sections of the song. Because sometimes when you're listening to a song, it can just sort of all go by.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of information. There's the vocals, lyrics, melody. There's all the chords. There's the actual arrangement, let alone the actual drum part, and the sounds. Are they electronic? Are they acoustic? So I find writing out music helps me, and actually that's ended up helping me in the shows I've done over the last few years, like doing the voice, for an example, because that is a lot of music, and that's all on charts. So I don't write the charts for that. We have an arranger who writes the charts. So that kind of thing, I think, when we're doing the first round of that, we get like 85 songs or so.
Wow.
And we have to rehearse them very quickly.
Yeah.
Is
it like, when you say charts, do you mean like as in like drum drum notation, or is it just
drum notation?
Oh wow,
full on drum notation. And that's the same for everyone else in the band. So we have an arranger who does all those charts. And because 85 songs is just too much music to learn, especially when you're just going, again, for an example, what I said earlier, you're just going to record that song one time and then it's out of your head. You're never going to play, having charts for a gig that you're going to do over and over and over again, to me, doesn't make as much sense. It's just like, you're going to be playing that gig so much, you're going to rehearse that gig so much that you're not going to need those charts. And sometimes for those gigs, like for example, sorry, going back and forth, but like with James Bay, I can't remember how I learned his songs, to be honest, because I have such a different method each time. But it's possible that I probably wrote some of those songs out, maybe. I might have written some of those songs out. And again, it's just for that visual thing, connecting the two together. That when I get back to, maybe so I write out the songs probably, or the songs, then I go into my studio and I'll practice, and I'll often just have my chart there and I'm playing with the chart. And for me, that just gives me a sense of confidence, because I know I can play the music. Even though I'm using the chart, I'm just like, okay, I can look at this music and straight away I can feel like I'm on the gig and doing the gig right now. And then maybe the next time I come around, usually I won't come with my iPad. So I know that I don't have no charts. And I'll just go through the set again, and I might make some mistakes, but I'll know the mistakes. Also, with all the tech that we have these days, like if you're aware of stuff like noises, stuff like that, and all these stem splitting tools, they send me the live recordings. These days, I'll just remove those drums.
That's great.
Because I find it's obviously a bigger test to actually play without hearing the person, because when you've got those person's drums there, they're still guiding you. And you don't realize it. So you're just playing on top, but you can hear them setting up things which are part of the music, which is kind of informing me what's going to happen next. But obviously I need to prep myself for when I go into that gig, those drums aren't going to be there. So I need to be used to playing without those drums there. And also that actually helps me also put my footprint on the gig and do my own things, because it's very easy to just copy what's going on the track when you're hearing it.
For sure, So I guess I
find it
test
to
out.
remove those drums.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because
sometimes I'm listening and thinking, okay, I might try this drum fill. And when you're trying to do your own drum fill over someone else's drum fill,
it just
doesn't feel or sound good. You don't know if it's actually working. Maybe what they're doing sounds better.
Yeah.
So I tend to write stuff out, and sometimes if I'm doing a gig that is a short set, half an hour set or something, or 4 to 6 songs, I might find it easier just to listen to all of it by ear, especially if it's very simple music. It all depends, to be honest. There's no set way of doing it.
You're just like and I guess hopefully the artist will give you freedom as well to express yourself. It's like
it's just sort of, for me, it's more about how prepared I want or need to be in that rehearsal. And sometimes I've been in, for example, I've put myself in a situation where I've done gigs a couple of times for people with no rehearsal, because I've been filling in for someone. And then on that kind of gig, I need to be super prepped, and they're happy for me to have an iPad hidden with the charts. So in that scenario where I'm not going to have a rehearsal, and sometimes I've also done this same kind of thing at a festival where I don't even get a sound check. So I don't have a rehearsal or a sound check. I'm just expected to play the gig. And in those scenarios, it's very handy to have your chart there to make sure.
How do you go? How do you go emotionally into it? It's like, because it must be quite nerve-wracking. You're stepping in, no rehearsal, nothing. You just are you just jumping in? It's like, whatever happens, I've done my own work. I've done,
I think the first time I did something like that, to be honest, I don't know why I did it. I remember when I look back, I'm just like, that's a very sort of, I didn't have to be in that situation, because I think they could have used someone else, because they did have rehearsals. And I said, I was funny enough, that example that you gave of being on tour and someone else offered you something. It was like a good opportunity to play with someone else, but I was on tour during the rehearsals. And then I was on the phone call to the guy, and I just said, you know what? I think I'm going to be fine for the gig, even without the rehearsals. But I totally understand if you get someone else, you can do all these dates. And he just said, you know what? I'm going to trust you. And I was like, okay. So, and I had the live recordings, so I just charted out the set. It was like 90 minutes working music, and we did have a sound check. I just met the band on the day. And we just went through. We didn't even go through all the songs. We went through maybe 6 or 7 songs. Everything was good, and then we just did the gig. But awesome. They all did their job in terms of making me feel comfortable. Feeling like what I'm doing is suiting the music and stuff like that. So I didn't feel like I had much to worry about.
I guess also the band I guess has a big influence on how those situations work out.
And then once you do that a few more times, you get confident in putting yourself in that position.
So the more you do it, the more
the more you do it, the more you're just like, oh, do you know what? You'll be fine.
Also, I guess like you trust more yourself, and you're like, you know what, I've done this before. I can do this again.
And especially when musically or stylistically, it's the kind of music that I'm used to playing or feel like I'm good at doing. If someone put me in some sort of Latin jazz situation, I wouldn't be doing that without a rehearsal. I'd feel, I'd need to really shed and really work with the musicians to.
Of course, it depends on the music as well.
Exactly. But when you play music that you feel super comfortable with, that you've been doing most of your musical life, it's just like you don't feel like much can go wrong.
No, of course. And speaking of music, like I was listening all the stuff you played on, man, the amount of pocket, whatever that means, when people throw around the word pocket, I don't know what does it mean actually to you. Is there like because you're so tight when I hear you playing, you're just like you're very, like there is nothing moving around, man. You're on it 100%. What are your thoughts on playing in the pocket, and what does it mean to you, like playing super tight with the music?
I think I don't know if there's any like hard definition. I think it's different for everyone, and also there's a different type of pocket for every music. There are some styles of music. There is a pocket in jazz, but it's a very loose kind of pocket, and you need to have that swing that it really sounds like, okay, that guy's really swinging. There is a pocket for that. There's a pocket in rock music, there's a pocket in folk music, there's a pocket in reggae, it's very different, and all of those things they have varying degrees of tightness. So I guess for me, I do focus on being like quite sort of on it, but that is again, that style by style music dependent. For me, it's also the space between the notes. That's the most important thing, I would say. The space between beat 1 and beat 2, and between beat 2 and beat 3, and between beat 3 and beat 4. What does that space look like? And for me to make it feel good, it's not necessarily even. There might be a different space between 1 and 2, and between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 4 and 1. But then the consistency comes in that when I have a groove or a pattern that over the course of 4 to 8 bars, there's consistency in that the space between beat 1 and 2 is the same on the first bar, and maybe it's the same on the third bar. That maybe on the second bar, there's a different kind of space. Maybe on the fourth bar, there's a different kind of space. And the same between all those other beats. That is like the pocket, because the pocket isn't just 2 beats or 1 bar. It can be a whole 8-bar loop, which varies in terms of push and pull. And a lot of that comes from I know I'm kind of over explaining it, but a lot of it just comes from listening to the music and trying to latch on to the space, because you'll find the pocket is already in the music. You're just trying to emulate that.
That's awesome.
And naturally you'll feel that in some of the music, especially let's say today's pop music, it's very on the grid. Every beat in every bar is the same. So you're trying to do that as much as possible. And that is not necessarily easy or always, you don't necessarily get that final result, but you can just try to get as close to that as possible. And there are other styles of music you listen to that are a bit more natural and organic, and maybe they won't record to a click. And actually there's just a general sort of feel that you're trying to get. And maybe that feel is on the beat, maybe it's ahead, maybe it's a bit behind. So for me, it always comes down to just the space between the notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
the quarter notes. I'm kind of, some people feel in quarter notes, some people feel in eighth notes, some people feel in 16th notes. It depends,
Yeah.
how you play. I find myself often thinking in sort of crotches, just quarters
Okay.
mainly.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe quavers, but a lot of the time just because I'm thinking about that space between beat
Right.
one and beat two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that's
Yeah.
like a good way to practice as well. It's like to play along with
Mm.
music and just like
Play
try,
along
as
with
you said,
music.
to latch on with the the
Yeah,
rest of the
and
band.
and sometimes I'm thinking about and visualizing different things. So
Mm,
depending on the music, although a lot of the time it can be the same, I'm focusing maybe on the snare, I find.
yeah,
So I'm really, even if I'm not listening to music, if I'm just playing but in a band, and maybe we've got a click or whatever, my focus is on like beats 2 and 4 all the time.
yeah,
And then everything else is almost like whatever.
yeah.
But my two and
Right.
four has to be solid. And then I
Nice.
go through other phases where I'm doing different things where like I can rely on my 2 and 4 being a certain way, maybe because it's just super on the grid. And
Yeah.
actually I'm focusing more on what my kick drum is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And because maybe it has a pattern that's moving about. And I might be focusing a lot on that syncopation, if there's a lot of syncopation.
Sure. Yeah,
Or even
yeah,
not a
yeah, yeah,
lot, but just a small amount. But if
yeah.
it's just not very on the beat, my focus will be on that. And I won't think too much about the snare too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And that
yeah.
will
That's
inform how that pocket feels and sounds.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's funny because when I was watching, every time I watch your videos, man, those snares are like, of course, super in the pocket, as you said, but also the sounds that you come up with it. I don't know how you do it, man. I guess it must be like there must be something going on, a secret or a trick that. But yeah, it's just like literally every time I hear your snares, they're all different a little bit, but they like
Yeah.
different, like different depending on the video. But every time
Yes,
they're
of
so
course. Yeah.
consistent and so right for the track as well. Like,
Hmm.
what do you use normally to record snare? As I use like an SM57 or
You know what? I go through phases. I change every few months. Probably I change. So yeah, SM57 I've used a lot. That sounds great. 57A sounds great. I've used that a lot for ages. I used SM7 for a few years. That sounded great. Now I'm
okay,
using a Bear Dynamic 201. That sounds great.
yeah,
I've been using
right,
that for the last 3 or 4 months, and I'm actually really enjoying that mic. But a lot of it comes from the tuning of the drum. I'd
yeah,
say something I've always been into, but I'd say more into now. The last year
mm,
or so, I've gotten really into like tuning and stuff, and
nice.
it's
Is
come a
that
lot from. What are you going to say?
no, sorry. Like, is there a particular way that you like to tune, for example? Like, because I know some
Well,
people they're very
yeah,
scientific
yeah,
about
it's
it.
different. Yeah, it can be scientific. Funny enough, this year I did actually get a tune bot, which I started using, but I don't use it on the snare much actually. I use that
Mm,
mainly on the toms,
yeah,
just to really get the intervals that I want between the drums.
yeah,
Although I find if I'm using 2 toms, I won't really need to use it. But if I'm using 3 toms, 4 toms, which I've
yeah,
used a bit more this year, then a tune bot is handy to help me get the right intervals between.
mm,
I say right, there is
nice.
no right, but something that sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also when you're doing TV shows, you're there, sometimes I'm recording for a whole month, every single day, 30 days, and the drums are in the same room and they need to
Totally.
sound the same every single day pretty much because we're not changing the sound of the drums day to day. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to be a sound, which is anything I want really, but that the musical director is happy with. But once we have a sound and it's dialed in, we kind of want to maintain that sound.
Yeah,
And I
right.
find when you're playing, let's say every single day for hours and hours and hours, your ears get fatigued. You kind of lose focus of how the drums sounded in the beginning. So sometimes I'd get a really good drum sound in the beginning, and then maybe the drums start getting flabby, or
Mm,
maybe the opposite in a cold room, they tune up and you don't really realize what's going on because your ears are just
yeah.
so fatigued. So I find it handy to have it for that. But in terms of the snare, again, it's just it's dependent on the music. I don't have a specific tuning.
Okay.
One thing I will say is that I've learned that how they sound, the drums in general, and the snare,
Yeah.
how it sounds in a room, isn't necessarily going to sound in the mic. And it's
Okay.
made me change how I tune the drums because sometimes, for certain styles of music, I've always preferred a nice fat, low tuning.
Okay.
And in a room when I hit it, it just sounds really nice. And I notice sometimes when I listen to a recording, it can sound too low, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've had a drum that I've cranked up, and it makes that high poppy thing. And again, I hit it in a room, sounds great. And I listen to the recording, and actually, it often still sounds too low. I found with the snare, sometimes in general, what I think of being low in the room might sound a bit higher than that. And in the mic, it will have this nice fat tone that it might need to be tuned up to more of a medium. And I find sometimes with a higher tuning still, I might need to crank that up a bit to make it really cut through the way I want it to cut. And sometimes it can be the opposite as well. You know, certain things that you think sound like a medium tuning, and you listen to a recording, it sounds too low. So actually being able to listen to yourself when you're recording is like a really key thing. And it has helped me transfer, doing all that kind of stuff in the studio really has helped me transfer all these kind of skills live. Obviously, on a lot of gigs, I have techs and people who do all that kind of stuff. But just to have your own sound so they know what it is that you're actually looking for, because they often depend on what it is that I'm looking for, which is based on what the artist wants or what their music sounds like.
For sure.
But yeah, there's no specific scientific way.
Yeah.
Especially with the snare, it's like I come in. I do try these days tune from scratch, not from scratch, but I tune every day when I go into the studio. So I tend, if I'm going to practice, I won't tune, but definitely on the recording, just even if I'm recording for myself. So still 3-4 times a week when I get in, I'll just tune all the drums and make them sound the way I want them to sound.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
I find it's good practice.
For sure. No, it's great. Yeah, I've been getting into tuning as well. As you said, this year is like quite like maybe my priority. I'm trying to learn, how to tune toms, because most often like I used to just muffle up using tape or using, and that's good. But sometimes you want to hear the actual tone of the drums without anything on it, and just see where you can get to. And what I wanted to ask you is so those snare sounds that you get, do you process them after? What kind of processing do you do normally on the? Do you process them on the way in, or mostly like on in the box?
Okay, so my actual setup in the room where I'm playing, it's just a garage. It's a garage, and it has a room within the garage that someone has built. There's no power in there, so I come in with like a little box with some power. This powers my interface. Like the lights are battery powered, all that kind of thing. So I don't have any hardware or anything like that. There's no processing that ever gets done before I record, or even whilst I'm there in that room. Because once I'm done recording, I kind of try and visualize what I want things to sound like, and I'm used to doing that now. But in general, everything just goes into the drums, super raw, into the DAW super raw on the Logic. And then when I get home, that's when I usually do all the processing, and that's just usually done in the box. The plugins and stuff like that. So I will process the snares, with some compression and stuff like that. Nice. Sometimes a lot of my mixing, it depends how I feel like. Again, I know some people, they get a sound that they like and they just use that same sound or that same template. So they come in, they go into their template and they just record into that, and that's their sound. Whereas for me, as long as I've been doing this, it's just my template is just raw, nothing.
That's okay.
So every single time I mix from scratch, and I've always found that that's a good way to learn, and also just to do things differently. Sometimes I'll take a break, sometimes I'll be away on tour, and I'll come back and I'll be recording some drums and mixing, and then maybe a week later, I'm like, oh, I forgot to go through that process that I usually go through. I haven't been doing it, and it's kind of a bit like of an eye opener into, for me to make me realize that maybe there was no point in me doing that. Maybe I was just doing that because it just became a habit. It sounded good once, so I just did it all the time, but not really listening. So I find starting from scratch is a good way to just really listen to what you're trying to do, listen to the music you're either trying to record to, or sometimes I'm just trying to replicate if I'm practicing or whatever. So for me, I find it handy just to start from scratch and then try and reference that sound that I'm trying to go for, and let that sort of imply what I should do. And yeah, sometimes when I'm processing, sometimes I'll just process on the drum bus.
Okay.
And I won't do anything on the channels. Sometimes I'll keep it completely raw. I'll just go to the drum bus, and I might get quite heavy with like compression and EQ there.
Okay.
And I might gate some of the channels, but I won't put any compression or EQ.
I see. So
that's the thing I sometimes experiment with as well.
Yeah. So normally, what do you have on your drum bus? Do you got like compression, EQ, reverb, a little bit of reverb?
Yeah. So like I use Slate Digital plugins. So they've got like all these preamp emulators. They've got like this thing called a mix rack. So I'll probably put that on the drum bus. And yeah, the first thing I'll go for is just compression.
Yeah.
And I'll try and get the transient sounding the way I want it to sound. And then I'll just get some EQ and take out some of the low mids and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I might go on to sound toys and maybe use something that's a bit more colourful.
Nice.
Like the Decapitator or what, anything like that, or the Devil Lock or whatever it is like that. All those kind of things which add sort of nice sort of colour, and I might use a mix or a blend of that. I've got a mic. I mean, it's such a small room, so I have a room mic, but it's just like it's a tiny room, so it's barely a room. Yeah. Sometimes I put it outside the room mic, and that gives me a different sound. And often, if I want to add reverb, I usually go via that mic. So I'll sometimes really heavily compress that mic, especially when it's outside, because there's brick walls and stuff, and it kind of sounds all of a sudden like I'm playing in a bigger place. And then I might often add reverb to that channel and blend that in, just to try and make the drum sound a bit bigger.
Man, that's great. You managed to work it in such a small space and just make it sound amazing. And I mean, it must have been a challenge, I guess, at first, and then you find now your way of mixing things, and you just know exactly how things can work.
It was all very gradual. It was all very gradual because I've had that space for like 13 years now.
Wow.
But initially, because there was no power, I was only there to practice. It's like, I've got a spot where there's some drums and I can practice. And there were like other tenants there as well who were using it for the same thing. And then they all left, and it just became my spot. So then I had my own drums in there that I set up, and it was still a practice room. And then I think the first thing I did is I got it was 2017, and I got a Zoom recorder. You know the Zoom recorders?
Yeah.
So I got one of those. I think it was like the H5.
Nice.
And recorded one video with that. Posted it. Everyone seemed to like it, or not everyone, but people seemed to like the video.
Yeah.
And then I think the week after, I got like a Shure 52 for the kick and an SM57. Got really inspired by some videos that I was looking at online of people with like two mics who were getting these great sounds. So I was just like using the SM57 as like an overhead and just a kick in mic. Then I started using the Zoom, has its own XY microphones.
Yeah.
Started using those as an overhead, using the SM57 and a kick. And then just from there, adding a couple of more mics. I think maybe I moved on to the Zoom H6 after that, which allowed me to have 6 channels. And they could all be external, so I could remove their XY mic and just add mic. So then I just had 2 condensers, a snare, a kick, and like a rack and floor. Or I might do 2 snares, 2 kick, or 1 kick, and do you know what I mean? A mono overhead. So from there, it was like going from 2 mics to 4 mics to 6 mics. So it was super slow, the whole thing, slowly experimenting with the sound and whatnot. And then I think it was like right at the start of lockdown, just before we got locked down, I got like a Navi interface. I think I got a Focusrite, and that allowed me to have like 16 channels. And then from there, I just started experimenting with all sorts and getting more mics and messing around with things.
That's awesome.
And that was like a 3-year journey. Get to that, just to get to that point.
I guess that's the best way to learn as well. Like sometimes you get all this gear, you might buy all the mics and everything. But it will take you years and years to learn. I guess if you do it this way, it's probably like, okay, what if I try this snare mic instead of this one?
Yeah.
And no, that's a cool way. What's your setup at the moment? What kind of where have you landed? Where have you landed at the moment in terms of like a mic setup?
Yeah, so at the moment I use I use an Antelope audio interface, and that has like 12 mic pre's. Sounds really nice. So I just use those preamps. I think at the moment it varies a little bit, but I've got like a kick in, which is just my Shure 52. I've got a Solomon sub kick mic I use as well. So that's those two. I use a very dynamic 201 on the snare top, SM57 on the snare bottom, a Shure SM81 on the hi-hats, and I also use those and another stereo pair as overheads of Shure SM81s. And then on the toms at the moment, I'm using the Sennheiser 421. They've got this new compact version. That's the small clip-on version, which I've just got a few months ago. They sound great. I didn't have them before, the original ones, because it's just too big to have a mic like that in that tiny room on the stand. But when they came up with this new version that clips on, got those straight away.
Perfect.
So I'm using those on the toms, and then that is nearly all the mics except for the room mic, which is usually either next door or inside. And sometimes that is a condenser. I think I was using a Rode NT1, like a really old vintage one.
Yeah.
And now it's inside the room, but on the close to the floor, facing away from me in the corner. And it's just an SM57.
Nice.
Just because I thought I'd try that out. Yeah. So that's where I'm at the moment. And again, every now and again that will change, how I set up the overheads or what mics are on the overheads.
Yeah, depending on as well on the song that you have to record as well.
Depending on the song. I've gone through all kinds of iterations of trying different things. Glyn Johns, Space Pair, all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then, sorry, I forgot to mention I've got 3 overheads actually. So there's the SM57, the SM81s in XY, but I also have an AEA N22 ribbon mic.
Oh, nice! Right in the middle, like mono.
So that's a mono overhead. Yeah, and it's bad for me not to mention that, because actually that's probably a big part of the sound. It's a very nice sounding mic.
Nice.
My wife's a singer, and she got it for herself to sing, and she just didn't like it, so I just bought it off her. She didn't give it back to the shop, so I was like, I'll take it off you. And it's one of my nicest mics, probably my most expensive mic actually.
Perfect. Yeah, you don't want it? Great. I'll use it. Any other mics you don't want? Just let me know.
The SM7 that I was using on the snare, that was her SM7 as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. Those are great mics.
I've taken off her. She's got a few at home, so anything she's not using, I'll take that for a bit.
Yeah. It's the one thing. It's the one way, like any microphones, just send them
this
way. I might not need snares, but sorry, I might have to sell them out. That's so cool. And when it comes to people just contacting you to record drums on their songs, is there like a process that you use? Like you just tell them, send me a demo, or just send me the BPMs? Like what kind of sort of
I think it varies from artist to artist. It really depends on what they want. Some people, I'm working with a music director who already has an exact way they want things to be. So they'll send the songs and they'll send references with how the song needs to be recorded, and then they'll do it maybe like another voice note that will have arrangements, like take the kicks out in this section, no kicks in this section, whatever. Or miss the, add this hit on this bit or whatever. There's other people I work with who come in literally as the sole sort of producer and artist, and they might be a bit more vague. They might have a demo, they might not have a demo, or they have a demo, but actually they don't want you to do something that sounds like that. It's just something that they put together. So I'll often ask for like references in terms of like musical references, like Spotify links to anything that sounds remotely like what they want. And then just because of the way it is, I don't encourage it too much, but I allow it to be a bit of a back and forth in terms of
Okay.
I'll try and meet exactly what it is they want.
Yeah.
And then they'll often get back to me if there needs to be a change. Obviously, I'll allow to go
Yeah.
back and change a couple of things. I might do
How do
that
you?
a couple of times until we get it
Yeah.
right.
How do you go about, like, because I get this very often, that people, they ask you to record drums, and then they kind of go like, all right, I'll have a listen, but you got another project coming in, and you're like, like, you have to listen
Yeah,
quick
yeah,
because I need to remove all those drums and just
yeah,
do
yeah,
this mic setup. Like, how do you go
yeah,
about
yeah,
just
yeah.
just trying to get the flow of the whole thing just running
Exactly.
faster?
That's why I try and work on one project at a time. I have done it a few times where I haven't even been mixing projects, but I've been on the same project, but going through multiple, maybe 7 or 8 songs.
Wow.
And I'm recording song 4, and they're telling me something about song 1 or song 2 that they want to change all of a sudden, and it's like, I'm currently in a different. And again, to be honest, that's where things like the tune bot really come in handy, because
Yeah.
because I think people think when they hear about something like the tune bot, they think like, well, why do you need to tune anything to a specific note? Or it's like, it's not that you're tuning anything to a specific note. I can tune the drums however I want. It's more that I've got this reference point to be like, I can get back to that exact same sound again. And often, sometimes, because my room's quite small, I've actually got 3 different drum kits in there.
Wow.
But once I've got a drum kit sound that I like, I tend to be using the same drums. The kit I've got in there now is like 10, 12, 14, 16. But I might only record with 12 and 16. But if I'm recording something stylistically different, I'll just pull out the 10-inch tom and swap that. Or if I need to use the 14, again, swap that. Or maybe I might need to add them. But even just with that one kit, I've got varying tom sounds I can get. And I've still got another 2 kits with different types of heads. And I've got a bunch of snares in there, maybe 6, 7, 8 snares in there. And they're all tuned differently. So for me, once I get it sounding the way I need it to sound, I'll just take note of what any of those drums are tuned to, and I'll literally just put a note in my phone. I think the TuneBot actually has an app where you can save drum kits as well. So stuff like that, it does have that, which is really handy. So stuff like that, I can always just be like, oh, if they need me to go back to snare song 2, I've made a note of what snare I used and what it's tuned to, so I can always go back. And because sometimes I've even changed, I've used the same toms, I've changed the intervals just because on a particular song it sounded better if the 16 was a little bit lower. But then actually on the other recording I had it a bit higher, so it's like, but thankfully I've actually noted it. I know what note I tuned it to, so I can just tune it back to that. Because usually when they want to change, it's like, oh, can you do this thing in verse 2 or chorus 2? It's not the whole song. Otherwise, then it wouldn't matter. I could just record ever so slightly different sounding drums, which still work, and I could just use that. But when it's like, oh, I just need you to change verse 2 or whatever, just one little bit in the groove, it's easier for me if I just like, oh, do you know what? I know what snare I used, so I never bring back that snare. I know how it was tuned. And spend 15 minutes re-recording that. And not have to think, oh, is that the same? Did I tune that snare a bit high or low and listen to the recording? So I can't really, do you know what I mean?
No. That's
so it kind of gives me peace of mind just having that, just that, oh, it's going to get tuned to the same note that I tuned it to. So I don't have to think about that.
Man, that's so cool. So important as well, because I used to take photos.
I didn't think it was important, but it is.
It is. No, 100%. Like, I used to take photos of the setup. So I would say, like, song 1, this is the setup. This is, but as you said, like, tunings, and they change that. I might put the same snare, but it's completely different tuning, and it doesn't. That's
and again, even if you're not, again, going from, let's say, for example, that particular project, most of the drum sounds are very similar. But for me, it made sense every day when I came, because actually we did this project took like nearly a month to do, because it was like a few different songs from different projects that they were putting together. So when it just made sense for me at the start of every session just to tune the drums and make sure they sounded the same, because the drum sound that I ended up going for, I think I had basically about 2 drum sounds that I used on this one project.
Yeah.
In terms of the toms, and I think I had 2 different snare sounds. So for me, it's just important that even if I was just using one drum sound, that it sounded the same every single time I started recording. So just having the tune box just allows me just to tune things up, so it sounds like the same kind of kit because it was meant to sound like that.
Yeah. Especially, it's a 1 month project.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
within the 1 month, how many times you retune your
No,
drums?
there was definitely because there were definitely times when I'm saying like the difference between song 2 and 4, where we were moving on, and I've literally had a note, 2 weeks, a whole 2 weeks later, and I'm going on tour in 3 days' time. So it's like it needs to be finished now.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh yeah, something that you did 2 weeks ago, by the way, they've just decided they wanted to change the section.
Yeah.
Good thing I've got notes of all this stuff.
For sure.
Otherwise, I'd have to redo the whole song, which is just a waste of time. Especially when they're happy with the song. They're actually happy with what I've done. So there's a risk if you try and redo the whole song and they're like, oh, it sounds a bit different now. Feels different now. Because I find when I start recording drums, they feel a certain way. Not better or worse, but they just feel a certain way. When you're used to that song, you play it again, you're a bit more relaxed. Feel. And that can be better. Sometimes the producer likes that on edge energy from when you've just learned the song, where you're maybe a bit rushy, a bit ahead of the clip. Maybe that's actually how they want it, which often happens on that first couple of takes. And if you record a song that you've known and played for years, you're going to be super relaxed on it because you just know the song so well.
You've done it so many times. Yeah. For sure. Nice, man. That's super valuable, man. That's great. Thanks for that advice, for sure. Yeah. We normally do towards the end of the episode, we do like a 10 rapid fire question, which, by the way, is never rapid fire. So feel free to to go on and just.
I can only be as quick as I can.
No, exactly. Don't worry about it. So here we go. First one is top 3 albums for best drum sound.
Oh, top 3 albums of best drum sound. Yeah, that's really tough.
And to me, at least, this is my personal experience. It changes every day,
exactly.
Almost like so. Feel free to say what today.
Yeah, and for me, also, it's just like exactly that. You're just influenced differently all the time. There's an album by Arctic Monkeys called AM.
Yes.
That came out in 2013. It's one of my favorite albums, favorite drum sounds.
Yeah, Chad Blake, I think.
Yeah, the drummer. Or was that
Chad Blake, the sound engineer, isn't he? Like, is it the one with the black one, the black cover with the
with the squiggly line? Yeah. That's one of the best drum sounds I've heard, and
incredible.
The pocket, the groove, the music, amazing.
Yes.
And then I was going to say Casey Musgrave's Golden Hour. That's just one of my favorite albums. Amazing drum sounds, amazing acoustic guitars and vocals on that. Third album, amazing drum sound. I mean, there's just so many to pick from. You know what? One of my favorites is, I'd say, Jamie Woon.
The last one?
And what? It's the one before the last.
Oh, the one before that. Yeah. The one. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. It came out in 2015. But that's one of my favorite.
For sure. Is it Dan playing a drum?
Dan C.
Dan C. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got amazing drum sounds in it, and just
nice
groove.
Yeah. Great picks. Yeah. Nice one. And number 2 is favorite part of your job.
Favorite part of my job, actually, in general, just like traveling. Nice. So obviously, I'm mainly touring still, and just seeing different parts of the world. I tend to go for like a run a lot of the time, so just being outside in a city that I've either never been to or obviously I'm not from, so I don't go there often. I find that's my favorite part of the tour. Actually, just doing a run or a walk in a random city.
Yeah. That's awesome. And worst part of your job?
Worst part now, it's missing family because I've got a wife and a daughter, so that's by far the worst part of it.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. And what's a piece of gear you cannot do without when recording drums at the moment? be like a snare, could be like a cymbal or plug-in or.
Piece of gear. I mean, that's going to change again all the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm really loving my tune bot, to be honest, right now. But that's not a thing that I necessarily need, but it's something that I quite like. It's kind of inspiring my recording at the moment, I find.
Nice.
Other than that, I'd say my actual drum kit, which is my new drum kit, which is an Equinox Design Lab kit by Mapex. That just sounds amazing.
Is it the black one I saw on Instagram?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've only had that for a couple of months now, 2 months. But I've been newly inspired since having that drum kit.
Really?
The sound of it and the feel of it, it's just amazing. I've never wanted to play drums as much as I do right now, weirdly.
That's great.
Playing as much as possible.
That's great. Sorry, just to divert. Like, how did you go to the factory and just chose the one you liked?
Yeah, so I actually recorded a video shoot, and we recorded 3 different drum kits. Okay. So they said at the end I could choose whichever drum kit to take home after the video shoot, which is amazing. I kind of had an idea of which one I would want, and I ended up still picking the same kit. But yeah, I got to play all these kits, and one of the cool features is that we recorded a different song for each kit, but also recorded one song on all 3 kits just to compare how they sounded.
Nice.
So that kind of really helped. Yeah, that one just when I play that kit, I was just sounded amazing. It looks amazing as well for me. Adds, that does make a difference. It adds to the whole thing as well. Guitarists, they like the way their guitar looks. Sometimes more than the sound. They might rely on their pedals and their amps to get the sound, but they want the guitar to just look amazing.
For sure. Nice. Number 5 is dream artist you love to record for.
Again, that changes all the time. For the last few years, it's definitely been Casey Musgraves, just one of my favorite artists to listen to. Mainly that particular album, the Golden Hour album. So I'd love to record drums.
That's awesome.
Just a big fan of those kind of drum sounds.
Nice. I'll skip this one because we already talked about it. What plugins you normally use in your drum bus? We already talked about that. 7. Is there a book or a video tutorial that you would recommend or you found helpful in learning how to record drums?
Ooh, there was a book. I just can't remember what it was called. It was called. I want to say it was called. It was called something. It was called Mixing Something. I can't remember what it was called actually.
Is it like a blue book?
I did.
Or is it?
I want to say it was like black with like maybe blue writing.
Yeah.
It could have been dark blue, possibly.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've got it somewhere. I mean, if you could wait 10 seconds, I could possibly.
Yeah, I can wait. No problem. That's all good.
There you go.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. That's exactly the one. I have that one. Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah.
Mixing Secrets by Mike Senior. I did read this maybe about 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Recommended to me by a friend of mine who's a sound engineer. I found that really handy, and definitely watched. I can't remember any particular videos. I definitely watched loads of tutorials. There's a ton of things on YouTube. I'm trying to think of ones in particular. They're not all drum recording based, but there's a channel I watch a lot called Sounds Like a Drum. Do you know those guys?
Yeah. Those guys.
So they're not specifically recording based, but often a lot about tuning. And again, it's the kind of thing I've been into for years now. So I find their sort of knowledge and sometimes hacks and tricks very handy for recording.
Sure. A
couple of things they've done that I've tried that's sounded amazing.
Sounded great. Yeah. Nice. Who's your inspiration when it comes to recording drums? Is there like a drummer that you look up to?
Probably Steve Jordan.
Steve Jordan.
Steve Jordan's probably my favorite. I don't have one particular favorite, but he's one of my favorite drummers. Questlove is my other favorite drummer. Steve Gadd is one of my favorite drummers. In the UK, obviously Ash Sohn
Yeah.
sounds amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, there's so many.
a
It's too
few
hard
other
to pick,
guys.
but
There's
there's
so
one.
many. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But definitely Steve Jordan, Questlove. I'd say two of my biggest
Influences.
consistent. Because influences changes all the time, and
Yeah, all the time.
you add more people, you forget about others. But I think those two drummers in particular is just like always at the top.
For sure.
And they're
For
two
sure.
different sounding drummers, but yeah.
Nice. Best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received is a couple of things. I'd say, kind of cliche, but just to record yourself.
Hmm.
I've found that has always been handy. Weirdly, I could almost turn it into not necessarily the worst advice I've received, but sometimes I remember when I was younger, people used to always say, make sure it feels good. It has to feel good. If it doesn't feel good, it can't be good. And I used to take that with me a lot. But then, having said that, whilst that's kind of true, I realized it actually has to sound good
Yeah,
first.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
sometimes, and I think, again, tying in the other thing when someone said, oh, make sure, get into recording yourself, that actually some things that I thought felt really good when I recorded it didn't sound the same. You know that feeling when you're recording something and you have this idea in your head, just like, oh, man, this feels good, sounds great. And you go to listen to it and it just doesn't sound good. And I realized there is a difference between what sounds good and what feels good.
That's good. Yeah, yeah.
And actually, if you focus on the sounds, sometimes the thing that sounds the best doesn't always feel that good. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable because sometimes for example, there's a lot of space. You're playing less notes, maybe less ghost notes. Yeah, that can make you feel uncomfortable, and it can make you feel like this doesn't feel as good. But when you listen to the recording, you're like, that does sound good. And then eventually that does start to influence what feels good. And then that does become important again. But the things that used to feel good don't feel as good when you actually listen to them. And the things that used to maybe feel uncomfortable, they all of a sudden start to feel good when you've got that confidence that actually from listening to a recording that actually sounds good.
Gonna sound good. Yeah.
So,
For sure, for sure. I mean, the other one was worst advice you've ever received, but I don't know.
Worst advice. What is the worst advice I've ever received? Because I had a feeling you were going to ask me that, but I can't think of anything in particular.
No.
I'd say that was
Okay.
particularly
That's fine.
bad.
Is there an advice then you would give to someone that is starting out and wants to do exactly what you do, and just do you have any piece of advice that you could give them?
Yeah, I would say definitely, like people have said to me, record yourself as much as possible. Even now in an age where people are using social media, obviously you can just use your phone mic. But actually, sometimes I realize even just the visuals, sometimes how you look when you're playing can also inform what's going on. If you're feeling a bit stiff when you're playing, you might find that you might also look stiff when you look at the video. So you might find that, oh, I do look kind of, maybe I need to just loosen myself up and relax. And that can actually help the way you play. I think I'm quite a visual learner, and I think more people are visual learners than they think. And I find that if I can see myself, I don't often practice with a mirror, but whenever I've looked at myself in the mirror doing anything out, even if it's just not music, it could be any kind of sport or anything. When you can see yourself, it's very easy to correct your mistakes. So I find filming is really good for that. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say practice as much the music as possible.
Nice. Okay.
For me, that's just always been important. Even now, even when I'm doing warm-ups before I start, I'll try and do them to music just because it makes that warm-up or the exercise I'm doing just that much more enjoyable, and I'm more likely to do it. I think if there's something you can do that you can get a lot out of, if you add music to it, it'll just allow you to just do it more. So I find I can turn a 5-minute warm-up into a 10-minute warm-up easily if I'm playing that warm-up to my favorite music, even if I'm not playing the groove, because I might be doing a warm-up that's rudiment based. But just doing it to music makes a massive difference. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes have gone by and you've just been doing the same thing. Which might be super important. And you can
Nice.
practice your pocket and feel with a rudiment. Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
anything
right.
you're doing, make sure it feels good. Like I said, about feeling and sounding.
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
So
yeah.
make sure it does feel good to whatever
Nice.
it is you're doing. So,
Nice. Man, this was like super valuable. Thank you so much for your time,
great.
Samson. It's been like an absolute pleasure. Is there what was the best place for people to contact you if if they need drums on their songs?
Yeah,
And
it's just on Instagram really.
hmm,
That's where I'm at really. Yeah. So
yeah,
Samson Jatto. That's it.
nice,
Instagram. Yeah.
perfect. Nice one again.
All right.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Samson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
take
for
care.
having
Yeah,
me.
see you.
Nice one.
Bye.